Elias had always liked the quiet. The orbital city, a sprawling mass of metal and light floating above a blue-green planet, was a place of constant motion. Ships buzzed between platforms, neon signs flashed messages in dozens of alien languages, and distant engines thrummed with energy that never seemed to stop. Yet, despite the chaos, Elias had carved out a small corner of calm. He lived and worked in a modest apartment building on the quieter edge of the city. It wasn't large or luxurious, but it had something the high-rise complexes lacked: personality. Each unit had been carefully maintained over the years, and Elias knew the walls, the pipes, even the creaks in the floorboards by heart. He liked to think that people who lived there felt at home, not just tenants, but neighbors. It was evening when she arrived. The doorbell rang, a soft chime that echoed through the building's metal halls. Elias wiped his hands on a cloth and went to the door. Standing there was a woman he didn't recognize. She was tall, with dark hair that fell in soft waves over her shoulders. Her eyes were striking, bright and clear, like she could see right through the walls, through him. She smiled politely, but there was something in her expression that suggested she carried secrets. "Hello," she said, her voice calm and deliberate. "I'm looking for a room. I was told you might have one available." Elias studied her. Most visitors were nervous, eager, or impatient. This one, however, seemed composed, almost confident in a way that was unusual. "Come in," he said after a moment. "I'm Elias. Let me show you the place." The apartment was small but neat, a living area with a couple of chairs and a table, a tiny kitchen, and a bedroom just large enough for a bed and a wardrobe. The walls were painted soft cream, and a few framed pictures of cityscapes hung here and there. It wasn't fancy, but it was comfortable. "I like it," she said as she walked slowly through the rooms. "You seem like a good landlord." Elias blinked, surprised. Compliments were rare. Most tenants complained about rent, heat, or the creaky plumbing. Few ever said he was good at his job. "Thank you," he said, unsure how to respond. She smiled again, a small, almost secretive smile. "I can tell. It feels like someone cares here. That's rare in this city." Elias felt a strange warmth in his chest, a mixture of pride and curiosity. There was something about her that didn't belong to this ordinary orbital city. She wasn't just visiting. She felt different. They sat at the small table, and she asked questions not about rent or utilities, but about the city, the building, and the life inside. Elias answered honestly, telling her about the shops nearby, the occasional street performers, the neighbors who sometimes stopped by to share a story or a cup of tea. "I like hearing about people," she said quietly. "Not just the city, but the lives inside it." For a moment, Elias was caught off guard. Most visitors didn't care about lives, they cared about schedules, deals, or credits. This woman seemed genuinely interested. He wondered why. As she prepared to leave, she paused by the door and looked back at him. Elias nodded, still feeling that odd curiosity. "One more question," he said. Her smile widened slightly, almost knowing. "Yes," she said softly. And then she was gone, leaving behind the faint scent of something sweet and unfamiliar. That night, Elias lay awake, listening to the hum of the city outside his window. He thought about the woman who had arrived unannounced, complimented him, and then left so quietly. Something about her lingered in his mind, a small spark of anticipation that refused to die. He couldn't explain it, but he felt as if the ordinary rhythm of his life had shifted, just slightly, and that shift carried the promise of something extraordinary. The next morning, he went about his routine, but his thoughts kept returning to her. He wondered who she was, where she came from, and why she had chosen his apartment out of all the places in the city. The truth was, he couldn't stop thinking about her because she had arrived like a puzzle. and he was certain there was more to her than met the eye. Days passed, and life in the orbital city continued with its usual pace. Elias greeted neighbors, repaired small leaks, and watched ships pass overhead. Yet, the memory of her words, "You seem like a good landlord," echoed in his mind, reminding him that someone had seen him, truly seen him, even if only for a moment. Then, without warning, she returned. She stood in the hallway, as calm and composed as the first time, and smiled. "I had a feeling I'd find you here," she said. "Mind if I come in for a moment?" Elias stepped aside, gesturing for her to enter. This time, she didn't just inspect the apartment. She moved with purpose, examining devices, touching surfaces lightly, and observing the building's systems with an intensity that made Elias nervous. "Do you often have visitors like me?" he asked, trying to mask his curiosity. She shook her head. "Not really. I usually travel alone." Her eyes met his, bright and unwavering. "But there's something about this place, and about you, that drew me here." Elias felt a mixture of pride and unease. Who was she, really? And why did he feel as if her presence brought the entire city to life? Over the next few days, he noticed changes. Small things at first, his apartment's AI assistant responding differently. Lights flickering briefly when she walked by. Minor devices behaving as though they recognized her. It was subtle, but unmistakable. And every time he watched her move through the apartment, he sensed she was capable of much more than she let on. Still, she said little about herself. She spoke of her travels in broad terms, and of her fascination with humans. Elias began to realize that she was studying him, observing not just the apartment, but him. And that realization both thrilled and unsettled him. One evening, as the orbital city's neon glow painted the walls in blues and pinks, she looked at him and spoke with quiet intensity. "Elias, there's a reason I came here. I am not just a traveler, and this is not just a room. I am searching for someone like you, someone who understands what it means to care, to observe, and to act." Elias felt his heart quicken. The words carried weight, but he didn't yet understand their meaning. "Someone like me?" he asked. "Yes," she replied simply. "Humans are underestimated in the galaxy. But people like you make a difference in ways others cannot." For the first time, Elias felt that the ordinary life he had built was connected to something far larger. He didn't know exactly what that meant yet, but the thought of it filled him with a mix of fear and excitement. Something had shifted in the orbital city, and he was certain that life as he knew it was about to change. As night fell, he watched her leave once more, and for a fleeting moment, he caught the faint glow of her eyes in the dark hallway. He whispered to himself, "I hope you come back." And in the silence that followed, the orbital city seemed to hold its breath, waiting. The days after Saren moved in were unlike any Elias had experienced. The orbital city buzzed around him with the usual mechanical hum and distant shouts of vendors. But inside his small apartment building, something different lingered. A quiet energy seemed to pulse through the walls, faint but undeniable. Elias couldn't explain it, but it made him both nervous and curious. Saren settled into her room without fuss. She unpacked only a few belongings, some clothes, a notebook, and a small device that hummed softly when she placed it on her desk. She didn't speak much about where she came from or why she traveled alone. Her silence wasn't cold. It was deliberate, thoughtful. She seemed to observe everything, from the hum of the building's lights to the rhythm of Elias's daily routines. Elias, for his part, tried to continue life as usual. He fixed minor leaks, collected rent, and greeted the neighbors. But every time he walked past her room, he felt her eyes on him, even if she was sitting quietly with her notebook. It was unsettling and intriguing at the same time. One evening, as Elias repaired a loose panel in the hallway, the lights flickered. The small AI assistant he used for building management, the simple unit that controlled the elevators, lighting, and alarms, blinked erratically. Usually, it was steady, predictable. Tonight, it wasn't. Odd, Elias muttered. He reached to reset the system, but the moment his fingers brushed the control panel, the AI flashed a sequence of symbols that didn't belong to any programming language he knew. His hands hovered, unsure whether he had triggered a malfunction or something else entirely. From the corner of his eye, he noticed Saren standing at the hallway doorway, her arms folded, watching him. "Don't touch it," she said softly. Elias froze. What? What do you mean?" She stepped closer, her eyes scanning the panel. "It's responding to me," she said calmly. "To you, it's just metal and code. But it knows me. And now, it knows you are noticing it." Elias blinked. He had seen technology behave strangely before, but never like this. He had fixed broken circuits, rebooted rogue AIs, and handled power fluctuations. Yet he had never encountered something that seemed aware. "Are you controlling it?" he asked, his voice cautious. "No," Saren replied, shaking her head. "I'm not controlling it. I'm communicating. It's like it recognizes intelligence differently than humans or aliens do. Some machines respond to force, some to commands. But this responds to thought, awareness, presence." Elias felt a shiver run down his spine. Machines that could sense thought? That was impossible. Yet here it was, right in front of him. Over the next few days, the phenomenon became more apparent. Lights in the hallway would dim when Saren passed by. Elevators paused for no reason, then resumed when she left. Small robotic cleaning units, which normally ignored residents, would slow down as she approached and pick up objects she pointed at with her eyes. Elias watched all of this with growing astonishment. He had always considered humans clever, but he realized that Saren was not just clever, she was extraordinary. And for reasons he didn't understand, she had chosen him to witness it. One afternoon, a neighbor, a gruff alien trader named Zarek, came by to discuss overdue rent. He noticed Saren for the first time and froze mid-sentence. His three eyes narrowed and his voice trembled slightly. "Who is she?" "She's my tenant," Elias said firmly, though his own curiosity mirrored Zarek's surprise. Zarek's gaze lingered on her for a moment, as if he could sense something invisible around her. Then, after a strained pause, he muttered. Elias didn't understand the warning, but he felt unease creeping into the apartment. Something about Saren drew attention, not just from him or the neighbors, but from the city itself. That evening, he found her sitting in the living room, the small humming device on her lap. "Elias," she said quietly, "there are beings out there who will notice me soon. They won't understand, and they may not be friendly." He swallowed hard. "Friendly? What do you mean?" She looked at him steadily. "In this galaxy, humans are underestimated. Machines, aliens, civilizations all assume humans are weak or simple. But when someone like me appears, someone who carries abilities humans have honed over millennia, it draws attention." Elias frowned. "Abilities? You mean, like powers?" "Not magic," she said, shaking her head. "Abilities shaped by evolution, curiosity, and intelligence. Humans can do things other species cannot. You'll see soon enough. Ron 4. Own him. Own him." Elias stared at her, unsure whether to feel excited or afraid. He had always known humans were clever, inventive, and adaptable, but he had never imagined humans were capable of this level of influence. Something in him stirred a spark of pride mixed with fear. The next day, the first real test came. A small group of alien scouts entered the building without warning. They were unusual looking, with smooth metallic skin and eyes like polished glass. They asked questions about Saren, the apartment, and Elias. Their voices were calm, but there was an undercurrent of expectation, a sense that they were used to being obeyed. Elias stood his ground. "She lives here. That's all you need to know," he said firmly. One of the scouts tilted its head, scanning him with a metallic gaze. "You do not understand. She is valuable. You cannot protect her." Elias felt a surge of human stubbornness. "Try me," he said. The scouts hesitated. Something about Elias, his calm, his confidence, his resolve made them pause. Humans, they had learned, were unpredictable. This was dangerous. For them, but intriguing. Later, Saren explained. Humans survive because they are unpredictable. You make choices, improvise, and act with courage. That is why I came here. You will help me, Elias, not because you are powerful in the usual sense, but because you are human. Elias was overwhelmed by the weight of her words. He was just a landlord, a man who fixed pipes and collected rent. Yet she saw him as someone who could make a difference. He realized that in this galaxy, intelligence and courage were as powerful as technology. Perhaps even more so. Over the next week, he learned small lessons from her. How to observe machines without fear. How to notice patterns that others ignored. How to act decisively when confronted with danger. Each day, he felt his ordinary life stretch into something extraordinary. One evening, as the orbital city lights reflected on the walls of his apartment, Elias asked her a question he had been thinking about for days. Why me? Out of all the humans, why choose me? Saren smiled, a mixture of warmth and mystery. Because you are ordinary enough to be underestimated, but observant enough to notice what others ignore. Humans like you are the reason our species can thrive in a galaxy that often underestimates us. You may not see it yet, but you have potential. These now, Mark. Elias felt a swell of pride. The ordinary man he had always thought himself to be the landlord. The quiet observer was being called to step into something larger, and for the first time, he realized that life in the orbital city was not just about survival. It was about discovery, about human ingenuity, about the subtle power that humans carried even when the galaxy overlooked it. That night, as he watched Saren in her room, her eyes scanning the device on her desk, Elias felt anticipation. Danger was coming. He knew. But he also knew that humans, with their resourcefulness and courage, were not easily defeated. And for the first time in his life, he felt that he was part of something bigger. A story that was just beginning. One where humans could shine in ways no one else could imagine. Outside, the orbital city hummed with life. Ships glided past in silver arcs, and distant lights shimmered on the planet below. Inside the small apartment building, a human landlord and a mysterious woman prepared for the challenges that were coming. Ready to show the galaxy what ordinary humans could do when faced with the extraordinary. The orbital city had never seemed more alive or more dangerous. Elias went about his routine in the apartment building, but the air was thick with tension. Saren had warned him that her presence might draw attention, but he hadn't fully understood what she meant until today. It began with subtle signs. Drones hovered near the building for longer than usual, their metallic frames glinting under the city's neon lights. Ships moved in unusual patterns above the platforms, and a low hum of energy vibrated through the walls. Almost as if the city itself was aware of the threat approaching. Elias noticed it first while checking the hallway lights. The AI panels flickered again. But this time, the patterns were different warning signals he didn't recognize. Saren stood beside him, her eyes scanning the panels. "They're here," she said calmly, yet there was an edge in her voice. "They've come to take me." Elias's stomach tightened. "Who? What do you mean? Take you?" "An organization," she said, gesturing vaguely. Alien. They've been searching for someone with abilities like mine for a long time. I stayed hidden. But now, I am in their path. Elias's mind raced. He had never imagined a day when his quiet apartment building could become a battlefield. He glanced at the hallway's security cameras, which normally recorded only for minor issues. Tonight, the feed showed shadows moving outside 3 tall figures. Alien in shape. Silent. Precise. They won't negotiate, Saren continued. They think humans are weak, but humans like you can be dangerous to their plans. The first knock came suddenly. A metallic pulse rumbled through the door, a sound no ordinary visitor could produce. Elias froze. They want the door open, Saren said, but you don't have to let them in. Elias gripped the doorknob. He could call for help, but the city authorities were slow, bureaucratic, and unfamiliar with these aliens. No one could arrive in time. He realized that, if he wanted to protect her, he would have to rely on his own wits and the unique strengths humans possessed. The aliens outside spoke in a language of clicks and hums. But the tone was clear. A demand. They were precise, confident, expecting to intimidate him into surrender. Elias took a deep breath. "All right," he said to Saren. "We do this our way." She nodded. "Humans are clever when cornered. Show them what you can do." Elias started with small, improvised defenses. He knew the building better than anyone. Every hallway, every pipe, every hidden corner. He used these to his advantage. He rigged loose panels to trip sensors, poured a small amount of oil near the entrance to make surfaces slippery, and activated a few of the building's older drones to patrol hallways. They weren't powerful, but they could distract and confuse. When the aliens forced the door, they found themselves slipping on the slick floor, alarms blaring in ways they didn't expect. Elias shouted commands to the drones, weaving them through the hallways, confusing the intruders with their sudden movements. He was improvising, thinking several steps ahead, and it worked, just enough to slow them down. Saren watched with calm precision. She didn't need to act yet. Elias's human ingenuity was holding them off. "Good," she said quietly. "Keep going. They underestimate humans." Good, good, good. And underestimate humans they did. The aliens, though stronger and technologically advanced, struggled with Elias's unexpected strategies. They hadn't accounted for quick improvisation, lateral thinking, or the kind of courage humans displayed when protecting someone they cared about. The confrontation escalated. One of the aliens tried to bypass the main entrance and move through a maintenance hatch. Elias anticipated it, cutting power briefly to the hall's lights, causing the intruder to stumble. Another drone swooped down, startling the second intruder, and giving Elias time to barricade the stairwell. Saren finally stepped forward when the first alien reached the central corridor. She touched the humming device on her desk, and a faint energy radiated outward. The alien froze mid-step, its metallic frame shivering. The AI of the building began responding in unexpected ways, opening doors and activating lights in precise patterns to confuse the invaders further. Elias watched in awe. "What? How are you doing this?" he asked. Saren didn't answer directly. "Watch and learn," she said. "This is the difference humans make. You improvise. You adapt. You survive." The aliens regrouped, realizing that brute force wouldn't work. Their coordination faltered against Elias's traps and Saren's subtle influence over the building systems. They had underestimated a simple apartment and an ordinary landlord. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Each moment, a delicate balance of risk and ingenuity. Elias found himself thinking faster than ever before, predicting the aliens' movements, adjusting defenses on the fly, using every pipe, wall, and doorway to his advantage. He was not a soldier. He was not a trained fighter. He was human, and in this moment, That meant resourcefulness, courage, and unpredictability. Finally, the aliens retreated, frustrated and confused. Their technology was advanced, their numbers significant, but they had not expected the combination of human creativity and Serene's mysterious abilities. As they disappeared into the neon-lit skyline, Elias let out a long breath, knees weak but heart racing. Serene turned to him, a faint smile on her face. You see? Humans are underestimated because they are ordinary. But it is precisely this ordinariness that makes you unpredictable. You are the reason they failed. Elias shook his head, still trying to catch his breath. I didn't do it alone. No. Serene agreed. You did not. But you acted decisively. You used what humans have always used: intelligence, courage, and creativity. That is enough to outsmart even the most advanced invaders. The adrenaline faded, leaving Elias exhausted but exhilarated. For the first time, he truly understood what Serene had meant when she spoke of human potential. He was just a landlord, but his humanity, his thinking, feeling, adapting, had changed the outcome of the confrontation. Over the next few days, the tension did not disappear. The orbital city continued its rhythm, unaware of the threat that had almost breached its calm. But Elias and Serene remained vigilant. They repaired the minor damage to the building and reinforced security, using both human ingenuity and the subtle influence Serene could exert over the systems. Neighbors noticed nothing out of the ordinary, but Elias felt a new sense of responsibility. This apartment, once a quiet corner of the city, had become a stage for something larger. And he realized that ordinary humans like him could indeed make a difference when faced with extraordinary challenges. One evening, as they watched the city from the balcony, Elias asked a question that had been on his mind since the attack. Will they come back? Will... Serene's gaze swept over the skyline, calm, yet serious. They may. But humans adapt. Humans survive. And that is why I came here to find people like you, to show that even the simplest human can face challenges that others cannot. Elias nodded slowly, feeling both pride and apprehension. He was beginning to understand that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and full of beings who underestimated humans. But he also understood that underestimated humans had a unique strength, one that combined ingenuity, courage, and the ability to act unpredictably. That night, as the orbital city lights reflected on the balcony, Elias watched Serene prepare her devices. Her calm focus, a stark contrast to the chaos they had just survived. He realized something profound. Humans might be ordinary, but that ordinariness, combined with creativity and courage, could change outcomes that seemed impossible. And for the first time in his life, Elias felt ready, not as a landlord, not as a quiet observer, but as a human capable of facing the extraordinary. The city hummed outside, unaware of the battle that had taken place, unaware that an ordinary human and a mysterious traveler had shown it what humans could do when pushed to their limits. Inside the small apartment building, Elias and Serene prepared for whatever came next, ready to prove that humans, even in the quiet corners of the galaxy, were never as weak as anyone believed. The orbital city was quiet the morning after the attack. For the first time in days, Elias felt he could breathe. The sun, or what passed for a sun through the city's orbital haze, cast soft golden light over the metal buildings, painting long reflections across the walkways. Yet the calm was deceptive. Elias knew the danger had not passed. Serene moved with her usual precision, tending to her small device on the desk. Elias watched her carefully. She had been calm throughout the attack, controlled and measured, yet there was a weight to her demeanor now. Something she hadn't said was waiting to be revealed. Finally, she looked up. Elias, she said, her voice quiet but deliberate. I think it is time I tell you why I came here. You deserve to know. Elias leaned forward. I've been wondering about that since the day you arrived. Why me? Why this building? Why all this? Saren nodded. All of it is connected. You see, humans are underestimated. In this galaxy, most species believe humans are weak, simple, and predictable. They assume humans rely on technology or numbers to survive. But humans, people like you, are unpredictable in ways even the most advanced civilizations cannot understand. Elias frowned, unsure where this was heading. I'm just a landlord, he said. I fix pipes, collect rent. I'm not extraordinary. She smiled, but it was not a light smile. It was serious, full of meaning. That is exactly why you are extraordinary. You are ordinary enough to be underestimated, but capable enough to see what others cannot. Humans have survived, thrived, and adapted in countless ways. You embody the best qualities of your species. Elias felt a strange mix of pride and confusion. He had always thought of himself as small in the universe, but Saren's words made him question that. So, you're here to study humans? He asked. Not study, she said, shaking her head. Observe, yes, but also to recruit allies. The galaxy is on the edge of conflict. There are civilizations that would crush humanity if we let them, believing we are weak. I am part of an initiative to show that humans are stronger than they appear, to unite humans with other civilizations in ways that highlight their creativity, courage, and adaptability. Elias blinked. You mean, like a mission? Yes, she said. A mission. But not one that relies on force alone. Humans have survived not because of strength or technology alone, but because of ingenuity, resourcefulness, and the ability to adapt. You've just seen it. The aliens who attacked us thought they could intimidate or overpower, but humans act unpredictably. That unpredictability is a strength. Elias looked down at his hands. The memories of the previous attack, the fear, the adrenaline, the quick decisions flashed before his eyes. It was true. He had survived because he thought creatively, acted quickly, and refused to give in. That had made a difference. He realized, for the first time, that perhaps he was part of something larger. Saren continued. I am not alone. There are others like me, traveling to find humans who can demonstrate what your species is truly capable of. Some are leaders, some inventors, some ordinary people who think differently than anyone expects. I came here because I sensed something in you. An ordinary human. Yes, but observant, careful, courageous. You are exactly the kind of person needed for this mission. Elias felt a shiver run through him. So, I'm part of something bigger? Yes, she said softly. You've already proven it. You helped protect me. You used what humans have always used: intelligence, courage, and creativity. And that is exactly what makes humans dangerous to those who underestimate them. He thought about the previous days, the aliens, the traps, the improvised defenses, and realized she was right. Ordinary humans could outsmart powerful invaders because they were unpredictable. They acted with initiative, not just programming or protocol, and that was why the galaxy underestimated them. Saren rose and walked to the window, looking out at the sprawling city below. The initiative is about more than survival. It is about proving humanity's worth, showing other species that humans can be allies, innovators, and leaders in ways they cannot yet imagine. You've seen it in miniature how a single human can outthink a group of advanced aliens. Imagine what humans could do if they worked together, with guidance and purpose. Elias watched her, captivated. The truth was overwhelming. He had always thought his life was small, insignificant in the larger universe. Yet now, he realized that ordinary humans like him could make extraordinary differences if given the chance. You make it sound inspiring, he said quietly, but also dangerous. Saren smiled faintly. It is both. But humans have always faced danger and survived. That is part of what makes you remarkable. And that is why I came here to show that the ordinary human is never as ordinary as others believe. For the first time, Elias understood what she meant. The orbital city, the small apartment building, the attack by the aliens, all of it was connected. He was not just protecting Saren. He was participating in a mission to reveal human strength to the galaxy. Over the next few days, they prepared for potential threats. Elias helped Saren reinforce the building's systems, using a combination of human intuition and technical skill. She guided him, showing him small adjustments to enhance security, not with brute force, but with clever design and improvisation. As they worked, she spoke more about the initiative. The galaxy assumes strength is measured in numbers, weapons, or technology, she explained. Humans measure it differently: creativity, courage, and adaptability. You've already demonstrated all three. That is why you were chosen. That is why humans, underestimated as you are, can change the outcome of events that others think are impossible. Elias began to see himself differently. He had always thought of himself as small, ordinary, and insignificant. But the experience had changed him. Humans were not just survivors, they were innovators, thinkers, and problem solvers. And he, like many others, had the potential to be part of something extraordinary. One evening, after the city's lights shimmered across the balcony, Saren turned to him. Elias, you need to understand something. The aliens who came for me are not the only ones watching. Others will test humans, challenge them, underestimate them. But each time, humans survive because of creativity, courage, and the will to act. You've experienced that firsthand. He nodded slowly. And what now? What happens next? Saren's eyes softened. Now, we wait. We prepare. And when the time comes, humans like you will be ready. You've already taken the first step by seeing your own potential. That is what matters most. The galaxy may doubt humanity, but we know the truth. Humans are never as weak as they appear. Elias felt a sense of purpose rising within him. He had spent years thinking his life was ordinary, limited to the small routines of a landlord. But now, he understood that ordinary humans, with ordinary courage and curiosity, could make extraordinary differences, and that realization filled him with both pride and determination. Saren paused, looking at him intently. Elias, humans have a unique gift. The ability to act when others hesitate, to improvise when situations seem impossible, and to adapt faster than any other species expects. That gift saved both of us, and it will continue to shape the galaxy. You've already shown what humans can do in your own way, without weapons, without armies, just by thinking and acting. He nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He had always thought strength meant power or resources, but now he understood that human strength was something different. It was creativity, courage, adaptability, the very qualities that others overlooked. Over the next few days, Saren and Elias worked together quietly, enhancing the apartment building's security and preparing for any possible return of the alien scouts. They set up small but effective traps, rerouted power lines to create misleading signals, and even improvised decoy systems to confuse intruders. Elias discovered that his knowledge of the building's hidden corners, ventilation shafts, and maintenance routes could be a weapon in itself. Every ordinary detail he had once ignored now became a tool for survival. Saren watched his progress with approval. You see, Elias, she said, humans do not need super strength or advanced weapons to make a difference. Your intelligence, your careful observation, and your ability to act quickly, these are the traits that have kept your species alive for centuries. You've experienced it firsthand. Elias smiled, finally understanding. Exactly, she replied. And that is why I am here to find humans who embody this potential, to protect them, and to show the galaxy that underestimated humans can change outcomes others believe are certain. That night, as the orbital city shimmered with a soft, neon glow, Elias felt a sense of purpose he had never known. He was no longer just a landlord. He was part of something bigger, something extraordinary. Humans, ordinary as they might seem, had the potential to outthink, outmaneuver, and survive against challenges that even the most advanced civilizations could not predict. And now, with Saren by his side, Elias realized that his life would never be the same. He was ready to embrace the mission, whatever dangers it might bring, because he understood at last that ordinary humans were never truly ordinary. Outside, the city hummed with quiet life, unaware of the truths hidden within its walls. But inside the small apartment building, a human landlord and a mysterious traveler prepared for the challenges to come, knowing that humanity's greatest strength lay not in numbers or weapons, but in the creativity, courage, and adaptability of its people. The orbital city seemed calm that morning, the soft hum of engines and the distant glow of neon lights masking the tension building beneath the surface. Elias moved through his small apartment building with a sense of purpose. Every corner, every corridor, every vent had been checked and secured. The attack from days before had left him wary, but it had also made him confident. Humans were underestimated, and he had learned just how dangerous that miscalculation could be. Saren worked quietly at her desk, her fingers moving deftly over the humming device she carried everywhere. It was subtle, almost invisible, but Elias had learned to notice its faint glow, the way it seemed to pulse when danger was near. Together, they had prepared the apartment for any return of the alien scouts. And Elias, ordinary as he had once believed himself to be, a soft vibration ran through the floor, just enough to catch Elias's attention. Saren stiffened, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the room. "They're coming," she said calmly. Elias felt his heartbeat quicken. This was it, the confrontation they had been preparing for. The aliens who had tried to capture her were returning, more organized, more determined. But Elias no longer felt fear. He felt readiness, a confidence born from understanding the true strength of humans, their ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. The first shadows appeared outside the main entrance, glinting under the city lights. This time, there were more of them, and their movements were precise, coordinated. They had learned from their previous failure. But Elias and Saren had prepared as well. Elias moved through the corridors, activating the improvised traps they had set. Panels shifted to block passages, floors were subtly slicked, and decoy devices flashed lights to confuse sensors. The building itself became an ally, responding to both his commands and Saren's subtle influence over its systems. The aliens entered cautiously, expecting a simple capture. But the moment they stepped inside, the environment shifted against them. Slippery floors caused missteps, confusing lights distorted their perception, and the AI systems flickered in ways they did not anticipate. Elias had anticipated their movements, predicting each step based on the patterns he had observed before. Saren moved beside him, her fingers brushing the humming device. The energy radiating from it was subtle but powerful, interacting with the building's systems and creating barriers and diversions that made the aliens hesitate. "You're doing well," she said softly. "Keep improvising. They don't understand human creativity." Elias's mind raced. Every decision had to be quick, precise, and unexpected. He led the aliens through corridors that seemed ordinary but were full of hidden surprises. Doors that locked automatically, maintenance shafts that rerouted them, lights that disoriented. Each step they took was met with human ingenuity, unpredictability, and courage. One of the aliens attempted to flank them through a service hatch. Elias anticipated it, blocking the entrance just in time and causing the alien to stumble. Another tried to bypass the main corridor, but the floor panels shifted under Saren's subtle guidance, forcing it back into a trap. Every alien advance was met with a counter that was simple but effective, a combination of human thinking and subtle technology. Saren's voice broke through the tense silence. Elias, remember, humans survive because they adapt. Use what you know, think creatively, and act decisively. He nodded. The words were not just encouragement, they were a strategy. And humans, he realized, thrived on strategies like this: observation, improvisation, and courage. The aliens regrouped, frustrated and confused. They had underestimated the combination of ordinary human ingenuity and Saren's subtle influence over systems they did not understand. They had assumed power alone would give them victory, but humans had something no machine or protocol could predict: creativity and courage under pressure. As the aliens advanced again, Elias devised one final plan. Using the building's maintenance corridors, he led them on a convoluted path, drawing them into a section rigged with a series of alarms, lights, and obstructions. The intruders, unable to anticipate the improvised tactics, faltered at each turn. One by one, they were forced to retreat, their coordination broken, their confidence shaken. Finally, the last of the aliens paused at the entrance, scanning the building with metallic eyes. They had failed again, not because of superior technology, but because they had misjudged humans. Elias and Saren stood together, calm and resolute, ready for any further threats but confident that their ingenuity and courage had turned the tide. As the aliens withdrew into the city's neon-lit skyline, Elias let out a long, steadying breath. He looked at Saren, a mixture of relief and pride in his expression. "We did it," he said quietly. Saren smiled faintly. "Yes, but it was never just about survival. It was about proving something to the galaxy and to yourself. Humans are underestimated because they appear ordinary. But that ordinariness is exactly what makes them unpredictable, capable, and remarkable." Elias nodded slowly. The past days had changed him. He had seen firsthand what humans could do when they acted with intelligence, courage, and creativity. He realized that his ordinary life, the quiet routines of a landlord, the small tasks of caring for a building, was only a part of what he could contribute. Humans, even in the smallest corners of the galaxy, could make extraordinary differences. Over the next few days, the orbital city returned to its usual rhythm. Ships glided between platforms, vendors called out their wares, and neon lights shimmered across the buildings. But for Elias, life had changed. He had discovered something profound. Human ingenuity and courage were forces the galaxy could not ignore. Saren prepared to leave. She had gathered the information and allies she needed to advance the initiative, traveling to find others who could demonstrate humanity's strengths in new ways. Elias watched her pack her few belongings, the small humming device safely tucked into her bag. Before departing, she turned to him. "Will you come back?" she asked quietly, her eyes searching his. Elias smiled, understanding the depth of her question. She nodded, a faint smile breaking across her face. "Good. The galaxy is bigger than any one of us, Elias. But humans are capable of more than anyone believes. Never forget that. Anyone." As she left, Elias felt a mixture of pride, anticipation, and hope. The orbital city continued its quiet hum. Unaware that an ordinary human and a mysterious traveler had changed the course of events in a small but important corner of the galaxy. He knew that more challenges would come, more threats would appear. But he also knew humans were ready. Alone in the apartment building, Elias walked through the corridors, checking the traps, the systems, and the rooms he had defended. For the first time, he understood his place in the galaxy not just as a landlord, but as a human capable of contributing to something extraordinary. He looked out over the city, the lights reflecting in his eyes. The adventure was far from over, and the galaxy was vast. But he felt ready, prepared, and confident in one truth. Humans, underestimated and overlooked, could achieve incredible things. And in that quiet moment, with the stars shining above and the orbital city humming below, Elias understood something profound. Even ordinary humans, in ordinary buildings, could make the extraordinary happen. They could survive, adapt, and shine proof that humanity was never as weak as anyone believed. The galaxy awaited, full of challenges and opportunities, but Elias knew one thing for certain. Humanity, with its ingenuity, courage, and adaptability, would endure. Askin Tinnering, 23p. And he, a simple landlord in a quiet corner of the orbital city, had just begun to see the extraordinary power that humans carried within. The stars above shimmered, distant and infinite, but now they seemed to promise something new. A future where humans were not just survivors, but innovators, leaders, and unexpected champions of the galaxy. Elias smiled. He had seen the power of humanity firsthand, and he knew the best was yet to come.